Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I'm Marc Givler, joined by Andrew Ellis today. Andrew, we're here, man. Like, fall camp starts tomorrow. As we sit here record this, fall camps have started elsewhere in college football. Media days are over. That week one slate in college football. I mean, what a time, right? What a time to be a college football fan.
Yeah, we're heading into August. It's been a long wait. It's been a nice offseason for Ohio State fans. Obviously, the taste of the college football playoff is still lingering in our mouths. But, yeah, good time of year, awesome time of year. Recruiting-wise, kind of a weird time of year, I guess, because the focus is so much on the upcoming season and specifically on Texas. All these recruits are focused on their own upcoming season. So Ohio State's class is in a good spot, but there's still some things to chat about.
Yes, and we are going to chat about those. We have a few things. Ohio State's in another strong position here going into the fall in the recruiting world. Some real areas of strength in this class. I think people are pretty happy with several of the positions, but there are a few things they gotta fix here and take care of before the pen to paper. If we're going back into like the 90s, everything's electronic now. In December. So we're going to kind of dive into that. We're going to talk about what we perceive to be the three biggest remaining needs for Ohio State's 2026 recruiting class. Spoiler alert, wide receiver will not be mentioned. I think Brian Hartline will never mention wide receiver on this type of show. I don't think ever again. Like, what are the Ohio State needs? It'll never be receiver. Just the way he's crushing it right now. But there are some things, Andrew. Defensive end. I mean, that's been a huge – we'll start there because that's what everyone's probably screaming at the screen right now. Where are the pass rushers? Kari Wilder has been a really nice pickup for them. He's been better than a lot of people, I think, realized when they first got him, as he's sort of showed up at camps in the summer and dominated, and his ranking has went up. But they've got to get a couple more, at least one more, probably two more. Where do you – I guess concern levels here, because a lot of those targets have sort of slipped elsewhere. They may have to try and flip some guys. Just your thoughts on the defensive end situation right now as we head into August.
Yeah, the level of concern is fairly high right now, I would say. Maybe like a 7.5 or an 8 if you want to put it on a scale. I feel very similar to how I usually talk about offensive tackle recruiting this time of year, it feels like. So nice little switcheroo there. The positive thing, as you alluded to, Kari Wilder's stock appears to be very much on the rise, which is awesome. Ohio State got in on that one, and I know USC was after him, and now he's finally going to camps, and people are saying, oh, this kid's running circles around Felix Ojo and people like that, which is awesome. The problem is you only got one guy, and I think they need three. In a very perfect world, and you and I have alluded to this before, maybe – Luke Wafel wakes up one day and says, I don't need to go to the West Coast to play for USC and play for the Pop-Tarts Bowl or whatever they're going to be competing for this year. In an ideal scenario, they flip him. There's no rumblings of that, nothing to lead anyone to believe that's going to happen. So we're kind of just stuck here waiting to see what happens. And I don't know. Other than flipping him, it's like, does one of these 3-star Ohio kids surge this fall, or are we just going to fully just focus on the portal? I don't think that's a fair strategy to just say, oh, well, we can always circle back to the portal. I mean, they need guys. These defensive ends that are capable don't show up in the portal all that often, and I thought that Keon Keeley was going to enter the portal at one point and end up at Notre Dame or maybe Ohio State. That hasn't happened, and I don't even know if he's expected to play this year in Alabama. So, and even if he did enter the portal, people are going to say, well, what kind of production has he had? It's just, I don't like that strategy of relying on that. So they need to find two guys, and they need to get two more guys between now and the early signing period.
No question. It's so hard to find productive, proven defensive ends in the portal because they're all getting paid a lot of money by the schools they're at right now. So they're not going to be leaving. Coaching changes can help with this. Like with Bo Atkinson, there was a coaching change and a very significant one. Going from Mac Brown to Bill Belichick has to be quite a contrast. So things can happen like that, but to rely on that, I think it's more of a thing where you go into the offseason like, hey, if this happens, we go for it, but we kind of plan as if it's not going to happen. And then if it does, it's kind of icing on the cake. But I'm with you. Luke Wafels, I think, worth watching. There's nothing out there right now that I've heard from anyone that's concrete that, like, yes, he's already waffling. Is that how we say it? Or is it waffle?
I think it's waffling. Close enough.
Oh, okay. And so that was my latest attempt at a dad joke. But as far as that goes, I just don't know that there's enough to go on there to kind of put all the eggs in that basket. We'll see. There's all sorts of rumors with whatever the NIL legislation is going to be, which we don't seems to change from day to day. That, will USC be able to honor all of the financial commitments it seems to have made with this recruiting class, and could there be some fallout there? That's going to be something to watch, I think, just generally speaking. But yeah, they've got to come up with some new targets, right? I mean, so where for, like, I won't even make you name names necessarily, but would you, if you're Ohio State, if you're Larry Johnson, are you more in the let's go flip a couple of guys, either that we've been recruiting that just we didn't land and just keep working with those guys, or whether it's maybe you spot a weakness somewhere else around college football, especially, God, that coaching carousel is going to start spinning like the end of September these days because teams want to get the head start on their next coach. Do you kind of do that, or are you more in like the scouting thing of like, okay, Marc Pantoni and all of your 500 underlings, go find us some gems that are either committed to lesser programs or just haven't, been properly evaluated yet, and go find us a guy, a late bloomer, whatever. I mean, how do you fix this right now?
I feel like in this scenario, I almost think it's going to be more so the latter, more so the scouting, because if you go down the list of guys that are defensive ends that are committed already, I mean, it's virtually all of them, at least guys that Ohio State even has any semblance of a chance with. So unless you're going to flip, Luke Wafel or Carter Meadows, which would be amazing, there's just not a lot of like high-end guys out there that really are on Ohio State's radar. And there was that, I forget the name of the kid, but Rutgers had a kid committed who I think was maybe on sort of a watch list for Ohio State, and he's enrolling early. And actually, I think he's there now, like playing football this year. So it's just, there's not a lot of names out there that look realistic at all right now. Maybe in 2 months, we're saying something different, and some Ohio kid has like 10 sacks through the first 2 games or something. I don't know. And if you look down the Ohio rankings, there's, the pickings are pretty slim there as far as guys that are Ohio State's caliber. We mentioned in the past that Malachi Irvin kid from Pickerington, he's committed to Buffalo. He's worked out for Ohio State numerous times. I know there's a kid from Elida High School, which is up from the area where I'm from, Parker Krim, who's committed to Illinois. They don't play very good competition up there or anything. So, I mean, I don't realistically see Ohio State going after one of those types unless they blow up. So I guess in those scenarios, maybe it's kind of a combination of flip and scouting, but I think it's just going to be some name we're not even paying attention to right now. And here in 2 or 3 months, a couple new offers go out. That's my best guess right now, but in a perfect world, waffles or waffles or whatever you said.
Oh, that's gonna be a thing now, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that I don't really love the in-state out. Like, I don't think there's a Dominic Kirks right now that's out there that you add late and you can legitimately like be really excited about, because I thought I kind of pounded that one for a few months. Like, they should have done this already. Why haven't they done this? And so you end up getting him, and you get a guy who's, a 4-star prospect, a top 250 kid that type of thing. I don't know that there's going to be that solution in Ohio. So I tend to agree with your assessment that there's probably some names we're not thinking about right now, talking about right now, that don't really have any direct ties to Ohio State at this point, that maybe things pick up this fall. The other thing I'm interested to see is who shows up for that Texas game. That's going to be a hot, like I say this half, kind of tongue in cheek. It's going to be a hot ticket. And these kids don't have to pay for this, but like, that's going to be a hot ticket for recruits. Like, a lot of kids are going to want to be at that game. Now you've got to try and separate who just wants to be at this game and who actually wants to consider coming to Ohio State, that may not be the perfect overlap, but that to me is interesting. Can you convince a Wafel, a Carter Meadows, somebody to come up and just check out this game, get super excited about the atmosphere, get super excited about the product Ohio State puts on the field defensively, and you can kind of show them the depth chart, and not that you already haven't, but just kind of reiterate like, hey, you liked what you saw, you loved this atmosphere, and we need defensive ends, we need you. Maybe there's some conversations that can take place that weekend if they're able to get some guys on campus. So I think Ohio State's in a situation right now where you just kind of let's let the next 6 to 8 weeks play out. I wouldn't reach yet. I think it's too early to reach. We see all the chaos that happens in college football every fall. Let's see who's happy with their situation. Let's see who's happy with the programs they've committed to by the end of September. If those programs maybe aren't off to a very good start, if coaches' seats are getting warm. And let's see who shows up for that Texas game. I think it's going to be, spoiler alert, going to be an amazing visitor list. We just, let's just see what it actually looks like as we get to that game week. So those are all the things I think that need to be kind of taken into account right now. But yeah, it's not an ideal setup. And again, I am a huge Kari Wilder fan. I mean, it feels like you're pretty big on Kari Wilder too. So we're not downplaying his abilities or his presence in this class. It's going to end up we're going to look back on that and be like, boy, we didn't really think at the time this was going to be quite as big of a deal as it was. But, we really, I think, respect his game and his ability, but they need more bodies. So we'll see how they approach things here the next 6 to 8 weeks. Andrew, the other thing that's kind of developed, and I think I'm surprised, if you would have told me like 2 or 3 months ago we'd be talking about this position, I think it'd be a little bit like off on that. Like, why would we be talking about that? But they need another defensive back or two now. They probably needed one more anyway. Jacob Weatherspoon decommits. Braylon Womack announcing in like 23 days ish. So that's coming up in a few weeks. I still feel pretty good about Ohio State. I'm not saying it's a lock. I mean, you're going against Florida, A&M, Auburn, schools that are recruiting really hard down in the SEC, sisters at Auburn, et cetera, et cetera. But this seems to now be going maybe a little bit beyond Braylon Womack to like, yeah, they could probably use Braylon Womack and whether it's Danny Odom or whoever. Yeah,
I'm with you on that. The Witherspoon decommit kind of threw a wrench into the defensive back plans a little bit, I think. With Womack, it's interesting because every time I see a national guy write about him, they say Ohio State is the leader. He wants to go to Ohio State. He idolizes Caleb Downs. We think he will end up at Ohio State if Ohio State has things where they need to be off the field, which obviously it's, 2025. We know what that means. And the sister being at Auburn is certainly something to worry about, I believe. Proximity to home. I do wonder, does it come down to, is Ohio State able to land or to pay for, I hate wording it that way, but is Ohio State able to pay for 2 5-star safeties who reside in the SEC footprint? You've got one committed already. LSU is obviously going to keep recruiting Blaine Bradford. And then we got Braylon Womack's decision coming in towards the end of August. So I don't know. I don't have like warm and fuzzies, but I also don't feel like Ohio State's going to lose. I don't know.
What a world where all the Ohio defensive backs, we all sat here 18 months ago and said, boy, Tim Walton's just going to just take the Ohio kids, and then you just cherry pick 1 or 2 from out of state, and that's going to be the defensive back class. And all the Ohio kids, for what, different reasons for different guys, but all the Ohio kids did not end up, none of them ended up at Ohio State to this point. And you're talking about a safety class with a kid from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a kid from Jackson, Mississippi that are 5-star. Like, what time warp did we enter here where this is even feasible?
Yeah, it's and I think I've told you before, the Bradford commitment to Ohio State was one of the more shocking commitments that I can recall over the last several years. So, and by all accounts, I know LSU hired away the one staff member that from Ohio was a GA or whatever. Mm-hmm. He didn't commit to Ohio State because of a GA or a QC or anything like that. So I don't think that's reason for concern. But with Womack, I don't know. Auburn worries me very much. Does he get back to Auburn this month or in August before he commits? Which now I've seen August 21st. I've seen like 7 different dates for him. I know you and I have talked about that. I don't know. He's committing in late August. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure he'll probably show up on Auburn's campus again sometime this month if his own football schedule allows for it. But that's the thing. Proximity from home can make those things easier to do. So that works in Auburn's favor very much here.
Yeah, and like as we mentioned on a previous show, like he could commit to Ohio State in 3 weeks, but he's going to visit Auburn in the fall, if nothing else, to see his sister. So he's going to be on campus. And I think it'd be naive for everybody to think that if he goes to see his sister, that he doesn't at least stop by the football offices for a little chat. Like, so this is going to be something that I think Ohio State fans are just going to have to deal with here the next 4 months, where even if Ohio State lands him, get ready to see the headlines. And it's not Braylon's fault. I mean, he's going to go visit his sister. And so these things are going to pop up and the coaches are going to hound him and everything else. So it's not like he's like, I'm not telling you he's going to be searching or seeking out drama in October and November, but just the reality of the family dynamics there and everything else. So it's going to be interesting. Yes, you mentioned it. LSU is not going to go quietly. That is a bad loss for them in terms of the optics of losing Blaine Bradford to Ohio State. So they're going to be very, very hypersensitive to that and wanting to reverse that. So going to be interesting. We'll see who they come up with. You and I have both kind of said we kind of love Danny Odom's look and his game and everything, and how nice it would be if they would be able to maybe flip him from Nebraska. But they're going to have to come up, I think, with some other names too, just to kind of keep some insurance policies, because it does look like they need 2 defensive backs now.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, Danny Odom is the one I would go after. And interestingly enough, I read somewhere that he had told somebody that there were still some schools coming after him, but they were like, one of them that he listed was not Ohio State. It was Penn State. And I don't remember if it was Michigan, but I thought that was a little weird, but that'd be my number 1 guy right now to go along with Jordan Thomas, but I'm not Tim Walton.
Yep. So we'll see what they come up with here. And then lastly, I think we went in an order of like most, must have to not quite as severe in terms of urgency, but they probably need another offensive lineman in this class. Whether that's an interior guy or a tackle or what they call a swing tackle, could play both. I don't know. They're actually in a position where I don't know that they really doesn't really need to be a tackle. Aaron Thomas is playing tackle. Sam Greer's playing tackle. Like, they have some tackles in this class. So it's just more of another, a 5th guy. But, I guess how concerned are you about that? I seem to think they've got 4. I'm of the opinion Tyler Bowen has showed me enough so far where if you give him the next 4 months to find somebody, I'm fairly highly confident he's going to find somebody that people are going to genuinely be happy with.
Yeah, no, I'm with you lockstep on that. I think even if they just signed the 4 they have committed now, it wouldn't be catastrophic or anything like that. They've got 4 really good guys. Sam Greer, much like Kari Wilder, is another name that's stock is all the way going up right now. It's just so weird compared to how we usually feel about offensive line recruiting right now. This time of year, it's so different. And, I posted on the board the other day, we were talking about Justin Fry and Donovan Jackson. And a lot of people thought Donovan Jackson was the MVP of the team last year. I think Justin Fry a strong case can be made for Justin Fry, just given everything that happened. But his recruiting a lot of times did leave something to be desired. And Tyler Bowen's killing it right now. So even like you said, if you just told me he's going to get another guy between now and December or now in February, I would have full faith it's going to be somebody competent. It's going to be interesting to see what the offensive line looks like on the field this year, especially a very, very formidable task right off the bat. But I don't know. I would like them to get another guy. I would have liked them to try for Deron Parks. I think that would have been fine. I know he's maybe got a little bit of weight issues, but he's committed to Florida State now. So can they flip an Adam Guthrie from Clemson? Do they go after one of those other Ohio guys? Landry Breed, the mentor kid, is committed to, I think, NC State. Can you go and get something like that? I'd be totally fine with it. But my concern level right now is low for once on the offensive line.
Yeah, it is interesting where they're not maybe at their full number yet, but like it just feels a little more at ease right now, or it's not like, oh my goodness, how are they going to piece this thing together? Obviously, like they'd love to get Darius Gray. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I think something would have to change here in the next few weeks. But that's a guy that probably isn't going to be in the class. But I guess you never know. They're going to have to. Again, this is another situation where I think they're going to probably have to come up either doubling back on someone we've been talking about for a while, or just kind of an out of the blue one. I don't know that the Ohio guys. It's interesting because you do have the tackles now. So how do you play that in terms of, like, let's say like an Adam Guthrie? Well, Guthrie certainly is going to think he's a tackle. Is he a tackle? Or is he a guard? And how do you massage that while also trying to, potentially flip him from Clemson? I think that's an interesting dynamic there. That's why these guys are paid the big bucks to have these conversations with these teenagers. But it's going to be very interesting. I'll say this about the offensive line, and I've said this before. I make no predictions for the Texas game in terms of how it's going to look, because there are new faces, there's new pieces, and you just don't really know until you know. But let's call it by October, I think this is going to prove to be the deepest offensive line Ohio State's had in quite a few years. I think they've got depth at all positions. I think there's legitimately 8 or 9 guys they'd like to play. Certainly you're going to have to ride with your starting 5 for the most part, but I think there's 3 to 4 behind those guys that they want to get reps and get some playing time. So again, what that looks like week 1 against Texas, I have no idea. I think both the Texas and Ohio State offensive lines probably going to be the key to the game. And also both have, Texas is replacing, I believe, 4 starters up front. And while I know there's all this angst about Ohio State's defensive line depth, Ohio State's top 5 or 6 defensive linemen are awfully good. That's going to be a very tough challenge for Texas as well. So whichever kind of new refurbished unit is most ready to go in that week 1 game, I think is probably going to tell the tale. But so we'll see how that looks. We didn't mention running back, and I think we're kind of in agreement there. Like, I don't get the sense that there's urgency from Ohio State. I think they're good with how things are right now. Do you disagree with that?
No, I mean, it seems like it. And, I'm fine with only taking 1. I kind of had preferred 2, but the main reason for that was, or part of the reason for that was just Bo Jackson's injury history, coming in as one of the 3 signees for 2025, but all reports have been good on him. Isaiah West is the one who's actually injured now, and then Turbo Rogers just got to campus. But numbers wise, I think it does make sense to only take 1. The only kind of slight concern I have is it seems like they're putting a lot of the 2027 running back eggs into that David Gabriel Georges kid from Tennessee. And I know he's one that, again, SEC footprint, and Georgia is in on like half a dozen 5-star running backs every class, but I know he's a kid Georgia really likes too. So it seems like they are very much focusing on him for 2027, but maybe Carlos Loughlin ends up getting him. I know the crystal ball favors Ohio State right now. But no, favor a key. If he's the only one they take this class, not the end of the world, and really not a concern at all from me.
Yeah, for me, it was more of like, I get the strategy here. I just think Derek Cooper's really good. I just think, if you can add Derek Cooper, you add Derek Cooper. But Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a need. I think it's a want, or not even a want. I think it'd be like just a pure icing on the cake type of thing if something would happen here down the stretch. I've been a big Bo Jackson guy since his junior year of high school, so the injury issues, yes, but I think he's going to be pretty good. And yeah, it's we'll see with David George's at Baylor School. French, again, we talked about this last time too. It's like getting the safeties from Baton Rouge and Jackson, Mississippi, getting the running back from Quebec, basically from French Canadian running back. Like what universe are we in? But that's a kid they love in 27, and I think they're off to a great start there. We'll see as things develop. If that continues or not, but they've got some good ones on their radars also in 2027, like Amir Brown out of North Carolina is a guy I think that would go to Ohio State. I mean, we'll see kind of how that develops. I know like NC State's very much like stay home. But, I think that's a player they could get. Will they do anything before David Georges tells them what he's doing? I don't know. I mean, that's maybe a 6 months out decision they have to make, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do there at running back. Obviously, we know they don't need receivers. So, quarterback's been taken care of this summer. They got their. I don't want to insult anyone like this. He's not just a gap quarterback here between 25 and 27, but they needed a guy. Like they needed a high school guy. I know everyone was like, "Well, should they just go to the portal or do this?" I'm like, no, take a high school kid. Luke Fahey's a good player. So they've got that situated. Linebacker continues to be strong. I know they took some big swings nationally, didn't necessarily get hits on all that, but I thought they did it from a place of strength and not a place of desperation. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have to have Tyler Atkinson. Would have been great, but they insulated themselves well. I think Lauren Nice did a good job insulating them from losing a Tyler Atkinson to where it's not a make or break thing for their class. So not too many needs, right? I mean, really mostly a full class at this point. And
the fan base's perspective on this class would just be so different right now if they were able to beat out USC for Luke Wayfold. I mean, that's the biggest thing right now. That is the single biggest thing that happened over the last couple of months. And yeah,
no doubt. So again, we will see where things go. I predict chaos in November and December around college football recruiting. I'm not going to sit here and promise you that Ohio State is going to be the biggest beneficiary of that. I'm not going to sit here and promise you that Ohio State's even going to have chaos happen to them. I just know the general landscape, and everyone I talk to that's in the sport that won't go on record about it predicts the same thing. There's just so much uncertainty, unknown right now with the money and everything that's going on and the rules and what they are and what they're going to be. And our school's over-promising and they not going to be able to deliver. There are so many things right now that are leading all sorts of smarter people than me in this business to think that the final 2 months of this recruiting process are going to be absolutely nutty. So we will stay on top of it here at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Andrew loves this stuff, maybe even more than I do. Yeah, you love the drama, man. You love perusing the meltdowns on the message boards and everything else. And so it's a passion. It is a passion of mine. It is. I enjoy it very much. Yeah, you're going to be in heaven, I think, the last 2 months reading all the board meltdowns and all the rumors. So thanks everyone for watching and listening. We'll be back here, of course, next week with another episode of the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast. Check us out over at BuckeyeHuddle.com if you're not already. Great time to sign up as the Buckeyes get ready to defend their national championship. But again, thank you all for watching, listening, supporting the show and the channel, and we'll talk to you again soon.